everyone! Welcome back to the English Health Podcast. I'm Laura, and today we're diving into a topic that's essential for your health but often misunderstood: how much water you actually need to stay hydrated. Have you ever wondered if you're drinking enough water each day? Or maybe you've heard conflicting advice on what the right amount is? Well, in this episode, we're uncovering the science behind hydration and busting some common myths along the way. Let's get into the truth about how much water your body really needs.
All right, so today,
Doing a deep dive on something that you would think is really simple.
but it can actually be pretty complicated. Hydration, you'd think it would be as simple as...
Drink when you're thirsty.
Right.
But there's a whole world of science behind how much water our bodies need.
And when and all that.
Absolutely.
So luckily, we've got some expertise to guide us today.
We're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of Dr. Andrew Huberman.
And you're right to think there's more to it than just those old adages.
We've all heard the 8 glasses a day rule.
Or the trick about pinching your skin to see if you're dehydrated.
Yeah, like if it takes a while to spring back, you're running low.
That's
right?
the idea, but...
It's not that simple. Age plays a big role, for example.
Our skin naturally loses elasticity over time.
So that pinch test isn't very reliable.
What might look like dehydration in someone older could be totally normal for their skin.
Interesting. So we can't rely on these quick tricks.
But how do we figure out how much water to drink then?
Well, that's where Dr. Huberman's research comes in.
He's not just saying drink more water, he's giving us...
Practical, evidence-based guidelines.
And it starts with understanding that there's a difference between reduced water intake...
Like maybe you haven't had much to drink today.
Okay.
And actual tissue dehydration.
Which is when your cells aren't getting enough water.
Okay, so 2 different things.
One is more about our behavior, and the other one's about what's actually happening, like, inside our bodies.
Exactly.
And Dr. Huberman's research focuses on how to make sure we're getting enough fluids to prevent that internal dehydration.
Got it.
So less about playing catch-up and more about staying ahead of the game.
Exactly.
And his baseline hydration formula is a great place to start.
He recommends 8 ounces of fluid per hour for the first 10 hours you're awake.
8 ounces, 10 hours. That already sounds more precise than anything I've tried before. Does it have to be water?
Or do other fluids count too?
Good question.
We'll get into the specifics of what to drink a bit later.
But for now, think of it as any fluids that hydrate you.
Water is ideal, of course, but this formula gives you a good starting point.
And why the focus on those first 10 hours?
It's all about setting ourselves up for success.
Most of us are active during those hours,
Working errands.
maybe even fitting in a workout.
By prioritizing hydration early in the day, we're giving our bodies the best chance to function at their best.
Makes sense.
Front-loading the hydration, almost like fueling up for the day ahead.
So that's roughly 80 ounces a day, or just under 2.5 liters for those who prefer metrics.
But is that enough?
Especially when we're talking about exercise, we've all been told we need to hydrate extra on those days where we work out.
Is that 80 ounces really enough if you're hitting the gym or going for a run?
You're definitely on the right track thinking that it's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Our bodies lose more fluids when we sweat, so we need to replenish them.
And Dr. Huberman has a specific formula for that, too.
He calls it the Galpin equation.
The Galpin equation.
That sounds almost official.
It is named
It's
after
a scientific principle.
Dr. Andy Galpin, who has done a lot of research in this area.
What goes into it?
It's actually pretty straightforward.
You just take your weight in pounds and divide it by 30.
That gives you the approximate number of fluid ounces to drink every 15 to 20 minutes while you're exercising.
So if you weigh 150 pounds, you'd aim for about 5 ounces of fluid every 15 to 20 minutes.
And for those of us who prefer kilograms, is there a metric version of this equation?
Absolutely.
It's about 2 milliliters of water per kilogram of body weight.
Again, every 15 to 20 minutes.
Perfect.
Now, I know some listeners are probably picturing themselves on the treadmill, stopping every few minutes for a water break.
Is it really that strict?
That's a great question.
And it highlights the importance of listening to your body.
These formulas are guidelines.
They're not hard and fast rules.
The idea is to stay ahead of your hydration. Needs not to interrupt your workout for a giant gulp every 15 minutes.
So flexibility is key.
You don't want to be chugging water if you're not thirsty, right? You can adjust the frequency and amount based on the intensity and duration of your workout.
And how much you're sweating.
If you're going for a longer run, you might want to take in a bit more.
A bit more frequently.
And a good rule of thumb is that the fluids you consume during exercise can actually offset some of that baseline 80 ounces.
Oh, interesting.
It's like you're earning hydration credits.
Right.
So if I'm understanding this correctly,
It's more about being mindful and paying attention to your body's signals throughout the day.
precisely.
And there are other factors that can influence how much water you need.
Like what?
Well, think about the climate.
If it's hot and humid out, you'll naturally lose more fluids through sweat, so you'll need to drink more.
Your diet plays a role too,
Foods like fruits and vegetables actually contribute to your fluid intake.
which is why it's important to eat a balanced diet.
It's all connected. This is reminding me that hydration isn't just about the amount of water we drink.
It's about making conscious choices throughout the day that support our overall well-being.
But how can we get better at recognizing our body's hydration signals? Because let's be honest.
Sometimes thirst can be subtle.
Absolutely.
One of the most effective ways is to simply pay more attention to how you feel when you're properly hydrated.
So much of wellness is about that, right? Tuning into those subtle cues.
Like, how do you actually feel when you're at your best?
It's true.
Think about your energy levels,
Your mental clarity,
even your digestion.
when you're properly hydrated, all of those things tend to function more smoothly.
It's like having that well-oiled machine we talked about earlier.
But for your entire body.
Exactly.
And just like you wouldn't ignore a strange noise coming from your car's engine.
You don't want to ignore those subtle signs of dehydration from your body.
Okay, so if we're feeling sluggish,
Having trouble concentrating.
maybe our digestion is a bit off.
Those could all be signs to check in with our hydration levels.
They certainly could be,
It's not always the culprit, of course.
but it's a good place to start.
Okay.
Now, we've talked a lot about water.
But what about other beverages?
Right, because it's not just about plain water all the time, is it?
Although I do have to say there's something so refreshing about a tall glass of H2O.
Nothing beats it.
But you're right.
We can get hydration from other sources, too.
And on the flip side...
There are some drinks that can actually dehydrate us.
Okay. Let's unpack that.
What should we try to avoid?
Well, sugary drinks are a big one.
Sodas, sweetened juices.
Even some sports drinks.
They might seem hydrating in the moment.
But all that sugar can actually lead to dehydration in the long run.
It's like a hydration illusion.
Your taste buds are happy,
Right.
but your cells are saying, wait a minute.
Precise.
And then, of course, there's alcohol.
We all know that overindulging can lead to a dehydration headache the next day.
No need to tell me twice.
But what about coffee and tea?
Those are listener favorites.
But they sometimes get a bad rap for being dehydrating.
Okay.
What's the verdict?
It's true. They have a mild diuretic effect.
Meaning they can make you go to the bathroom more frequently?
However, studies have shown that for regular coffee and tea drinkers.
The hydrating effects actually outweigh the diuretic effects.
So enjoying your morning coffee
Or a cup of tea in the afternoon?
is not going to sabotage your hydration goals.
Not at all.
And let's not forget the hydration powerhouses. Fruits and vegetables.
Watermelon, cucumbers, spinach,
They're packed with electrolytes and have a high water content.
making them a delicious way to stay hydrated.
I love that. So it's about the bigger picture of what we're consuming throughout the day.
Not just obsessing over every ounce of water.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into hydration,
What's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
it's this.
Hydration isn't about rigidly following formulas.
It's about understanding your body's needs and making choices that support them.
Listen to your thirst cues.
Pay attention to how you feel.
And don't be afraid to experiment a bit to find what works best for you.
It's about building that awareness, right?
That intuition around what our bodies need to thrive. Maybe start by adding an extra glass of water to your day.
Swapping out a sugary drink for a piece of fruit.
Small changes can make a big difference. And with that,
This has been your deep dive into hydration.
stay curious, and we'll see you next time.
That's it for today's episode. I hope you found this deep dive into hydration as fascinating and helpful as I did. Remember, as Dr. Andrew Huberman highlighted, staying hydrated isn't just about following common myths. It's about understanding your body's needs, especially when it comes to exercise. Keep the Galpin equation in mind for those workout sessions, and always prioritize your baseline hydration to support your health and performance. Thanks for tuning in. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with others who could benefit. Stay hydrated, and I'll see you in the next episode.